What a joy and blessing it is to read the scriptures together with you, my sisters, from all over the world. Today, let us encounter together Junia's friends, women from the New Testament, silenced by tradition. There are many women Paul mentions or greets in his letters, and they are invisible, not very much known. Alphia, Philemon 2, Nympha, Colossians 4, or Chloe, who Paul quotes at the beginning of the letter to the Corinthians, and whom we should thank for this letter. We will be focusing especially on Romans 16, a chapter which is an important source for the reconstruction of women's role in churches in early Christian history, and a tremendous encouragement for our lives today. Paul is not the misogynist we claim he is. In this final chapter of Romans 16, written when he was in Corinth in 56-58, he greets his co-workers. Out of the 26 persons mentioned by name, roughly 1/3, 8, are women. We will focus on Phoebe, Prisca, and Junia, but there is also Nero's sister, Rufus' mother, Julia, and 4 women that Paul is describing with a very interesting Greek verb. Mary, Tryphena, Tryphosa, Persis have been working hard, says Paul, using the Greek verb kopio. It means they have taken their part in the mission, a verb that he uses to describe his own mission and also to describe the leadership and preaching of men with responsibilities in different churches. Paul is proud of their work. The commitment of these 4 women is not ashamed of writing it. But there is much more in this great chapter. The first person Paul greets is Phoebe. She is a diakonos, the only woman to be described by the masculine word, and a prostatis. I invite you one day to try this surprising exercise. Compare different Bible versions in your language for these 2 verses to see what opposite images of Phoebe they give. You will be puzzled. What was her role? According to the translations, she was just a servant, a deaconess, which is totally anachronic, or in other versions, a leader, a minister. And what kind of great help has Phoebe provided? Depending on the version, she is just a helper, one who comes to help, nothing very precise. Has she prepared coffee for Paul? The combination of these 2 Greek words is unique. It probably means that Phoebe has played a significant role in the spread of the gospel across the towns and cities of the Corinthia, and has exercised leadership in that church of St. She is also certainly expected to be the bearer of the letter written by Paul. She was trusted with sufficient theological skills to be recommended to read it aloud and to explain it to the Romans. Paul also seems to thank her for being his benefactor in a patronage relationship, someone who has granted him social favor. In a 9th century Arabic version of this passage, we read, Phoebe, one in authority over many and over myself as well. The titles given to Phoebe show she held a position of considerable responsibility, prominence and authority in her congregation. She was an opinion leader who exercised leadership. What about Priscilla or Prisca, the diminutive form? Along with her husband Aquila, she is the second woman quoted in Romans 16. They seem to have traveled to different places where they were involved in house churches, even teaching and correcting Apollos, a brilliant Jewish scholar who himself became a leader among the Corinthians. It means Priscilla is in fact a teacher of teachers. They are both qualified as co-workers of Paul. The word synergos is a distinctive Pauline expression. It describes someone who works with him in proclaiming the gospel, who shares the same mission of preaching. And Priscilla is the only woman to receive this title, sign of the trust and esteem of Paul about her. As you have noticed, Prisca is named first before her husband. Such precedence was an unconventional occurrence. In fact, the habit is that women were hardly mentioned at all. The reason for Prisca's prominence could be explained by her higher social status. However, when New Testament writers refer to the occupation of Prisca and Aquila as tent makers and to their house, the order is Aquila and Priscilla. But when ministry is in view, the order is first Priscilla, then Aquila. Her being mentioned first probably shows her prominence in the early Christian missionary movement. Let us finish with Junia. Who is Paul talking about in Romans 16, verse 7? The woman apostle Junia or the male apostle Junias? In Greek here, the choice between a masculine or a feminine name depends on the accentuation. We shall remember that the Greek manuscripts of the New Testament are not accentuated until the 7th to 9th century. I am a professor of textual criticism, Bible translator. The study of manuscripts in this case is incredible. Every ancient manuscript of the biblical text, every medieval manuscript, every old version and every church father witnesses a feminine name. The understanding of that name as feminine has been dominant for at least the first millennium of Christianity. And guess what? No manuscript, not a single one, witnesses the masculine form, which you still find in some modern Bible versions. One must wait until the 13th century to find a witness to the masculine name Junias. There is more. The name Junias does not even exist. No single document, no inscription or public monument attest to that name. On the contrary, the feminine name Junia was a very common Roman Latin name. In Rome alone, more than 250 occurrences of that name have been discovered. In fact, those who favor the view that Junia was not a female apostle do so because of their prior assumption that women could not be apostles, not because of any evidence of the text. Yes, the New Testament offers the presence of a woman apostle. This chapter of Romans 16 shows women with leadership responsibilities and active participation in the church and the Pauline mission. Their stories, told in the New Testament, have been silenced or minimized by tradition or translation. The silence imposed on these stories and on these women is partly responsible for the restriction imposed on women's ministry in some churches today. Paul greets these women. He appreciates their work. It gives us another point of view into Paul's attitude to female church leaders. Paul is very positive about the role and ministry of women. He does not put any condition or set any limitation because they are women. This chapter shows the freedom enjoyed by women in the very first generation at the image of Jesus' behavior towards women. Jesus was speaking with women. He was speaking theology with them. He took them as missionaries and as friends. As concludes a report from the Anglican Church on that chapter, it paints a vivid and lively picture of the church in which women and men minister together, where the gifts of all are cherished and valued. It is a picture faithful to the insight of Galatians 3, where there are no division, no more divisions on the grounds of gender. I will finish with Paul's beautiful image of the church as a body with its different members. Many of our churches are sometimes like an hemiplegic body, paralyzed on one side of the body. Half of its members, the women, are prevented from functioning as they should do. They are not allowed to minister like Phoebe, Junia, or Prisca, according to the gift God has given them. The result is a church, a body, not fully able to fulfill its vocation, sharing the good news of Jesus Christ to your fellow brothers and sisters in humankind.